We have an extraordinary privilege, everyone, to have Rabbi Matt Berekowitz here. He's truly one of a kind. As you know, he's a friend of our synagogue. He installed Rabbi Hal at his installation. Um, he wears many hats. I'm going to read some of his bio here, and then I'll also let him take it away. But we're truly in the presence of someone truly wonderful. On a personal note, I had the great benefit of learning from him in Israel when I studied there, over at the Schechter Institutes. And he teaches an extraordinary class on Zionism. And so when we were forming this program, he was the first name we wanted to bring here because he, apart from just his expansive knowledge, truly it's hard to find someone more knowledgeable. It's the way that he teaches and also his unique interests in art. He also has an amazing studio, and he brought all of us to go tour the studio. So just a little bit about Rabbi Matt Berekowitz. He's the director of Israel programs for the Jewish Theological Seminary, or JTS, and co-founder of Kol Ha'ot, which we'll be seeing directly some of the work coming out of there. A Jerusalem-based venture devoted to exploring the arts and Jewish learning. For 10 years, Matt served as the JTS Senior Rabbinic Fellow, organizing substantive adult learning throughout Florida and beyond. He's a member of the Wexner program faculty, and that's where I had the benefit of seeing him most recently in New Jersey. He completed his undergraduate work in international relations and Middle East studies, summa cum laude at Colgate. While in Israel, he studied at Pardes and the Schechter Institute of Jewish Studies. He was ordained from JTS in '99, is a Wexner Graduate Fellow alumnus, and most recently an alumnus of Hartman Rabbinic Leadership Institute. An accomplished artist, Matt was formally trained in Jewish scribal art in Jerusalem and completed the writing of Megillat Esther. By the way, I also want to make a quick plug. Maybe at the end, Rabbi Matt, you can say more about it, but he created the most incredible Haggadah. And if you are in the market for a new Haggadah for your Passover Seders coming up, the artwork that is just so intentionally crafted with such deep Jewish knowledge, it is truly the most remarkable Haggadah. I can help you if interested. We can both tell you how to get it. But completed the writing of Megillat Esther, the illumination of several ketubot, and a limited edition artist portfolio entitled Passover Landscapes Illuminations. There is so much more about this incredible person. He is current vice president of Schechter Institute's incoming president over in Jerusalem. So it's our privilege to learn from you. Thank you for making the time over in Israel to zoom in. This is a series elevating Israeli voices. We want to hear directly from our brothers and sisters, leaders and scholars in the field. And so without further ado, Rabbi Matt Berekowitz.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Joshua Jacobs. I am both humbled and exalted by your introduction. Rabbi Jacobs, I feel like I need to give you commission or at least take you on the road with me when I speak. That was such a sweet, such a thoughtful introduction. And I want to say to the B'nai Jeshurun community, you have chosen so well in Rabbi Joshua Jacobs. He was one of my star students in the Israel program. And it is so wonderful to be invited back to this community where I had the privilege of installing Rabbi Hal Rudin-Luria, as Rabbi Jacobs said. I trust I did well on the installation. Rabbi Hal, it is always good to be in your presence. I want to wish Rabbi Hal refuah shlema. And again, say how much of a joy it is to be part of your community again. I so wish I were doing this in person. The one piece that I do want to add to my bio that I am proudest of these days is that I am the father of an IDF soldier. My daughter, Rachel, is 19, serving in a combat unit known as Chir Gvulot on a base in the south. Rachel was trained as a sharpshooter. And I'm also very proud to share with you that for 2 weeks, she was guarding humanitarian trucks going into Gaza, trucks that were crossing from Egypt, going up a military corridor in Israel and entering Gaza. And she is now training to be a medic. She is in a 2-month course to be an Army medic and truly thriving in all of the learning opportunities that she has as part of her IDF service. And of course, I want to thank your community and truly all of the Jewish communities in North America for holding us in your prayers here in Israel. The topic that I've chosen for this afternoon is the art of October 7th. And what I want to do with you is I want to take a close look to see how it is that Israeli artists have responded since that horrific day of October 7th. Today, keep in mind, marks the 520th day of war in Israel. And still, le davar ein sof, there is no end in sight. All of that to say that this particular chapter that we are journeying through is still unfolding. The art that you will see this afternoon is raw, impactful, provoking, and inspires a conversation of past, present, and future. It harkens back to a real and imagined idyllic past and immerses us in the tragedy of Shiva B'October. Right? The moment we hear that expression in Hebrew, Shiva B'October, the 7th of October, right, we also hear the word Shiva, right, as if we, all of us, not just in Israel, but all of us in the Jewish world, have been in this extended period of Shiva, of sitting Shiva over these days. The art that we're going to see will project us forward as we try desperately to imagine a horizon other than the reality that we are living in. And so I'm going to share my screen and begin. Okay, Rabbi Jacobs, if you could just confirm that you can all see my screen.
Yes, good on our end. I think he can only hear from the mic.
Oh, is that right?
Yes?
Yes. Yes.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. Great, perfect. Okay, the art of October 7th on memory and massacre. I want to begin with a poem by Dael Rodriguez Garcia entitled Clear for Publication. Cleared for publication is the expression in Hebrew, hutar lefirsum. This expression is a term that's used by the Israeli media to announce that the names of soldiers who have fallen in battle can now be made public. This only happens after their families and close relatives have been personally informed. During the recent war, the news frequently began with these words for many weeks. And I would say this was the daily nightmare that we woke up to until the ceasefire. Dael Garcia writes the following: cleared for publication, that our hearts are broken, and in hidden places, in empty rooms, thousands of sobs are choking silently. Cleared for publication, that open season was declared on us. We were plundered in the dark of the most precious of the precious. It is already cleared for publication that the magical shining light of our beloved's face is extinguished. However, beneath the same soil, a stubborn plant is sprouting, sending roots without end, tightly grasped with love. What I'd like to do over the course of this hour is showcase the work of three artists in particular. We're going to be taking a look at the work of Michel Kishka, Zoya Cherkassky, and the artist Or Yogev. From there, as Rabbi Jacobs mentioned, what I want to do is I want to share with you a very, very special exhibit that we opened during the days of Chol HaMoed Sukkot, the intermediate days of Sukkot, in which we commissioned 14 artists to create commemorative posters of October 7th. We'll take a look at a sampling of those posters and of that project, and then we'll close with any questions or comments, reflections that you have on the artwork that you will have seen. So let's begin with Michel Kishka. Michel Kishka was born in 1954. He is an Israeli cartoonist and illustrator of Belgian origin. His father was a Holocaust survivor, Henry Kishka, born in Belgium, a Holocaust survivor, and his wife, Lucia. Michel Kishka immigrated to Israel in 1974, where he studied art at the Bezalel Academy and became an instructor and one of Israel's leading comic book artists and political cartoonists. Let's jump into his work. Right, his first piece is entitled Be'eri, Then and Today. So I want to open with your voices. What is it that you see in this piece? What strikes you as you're looking at this piece? What do you observe?
I'm going to circulate with the mic. So anybody who wants to share, just raise your hand. Great. Alina.
Two things strike me. First, on the left side, the building like it used to be. On the right side is the destruction. And of course, the symbol of the kalaniot that always grow there.
ואיך קוראים לך?
Halina.
Rina.
Halina.
Okay.
Want to make sure you heard it. Halina.
Halina. Okay. Halina, I think I remember meeting you when I was there in person. It's great to hear your voice, Halina. And I just want to reiterate what the images that Halina is underlining here for us, right? The left in the distance, right? We see a building as it was, right? The right, right? A destroyed building that is being reconstructed. And of course, the kalaniot, right? The poppy flowers that we see in the foreground. This is a symbol of Israel's south, right? And it's right around this time of year that you see carpets of this magnificent flower in Israel's south. And this is the signature flower and signature symbol of Otef Aza, of the Gaza envelope. Okay, anything else that strikes you as you look at this piece?
Got a hand over here.
It looks to me like the birds are like airplanes attacking, maybe. I'm not sure.
Good. Also,
this,
please, everyone should say their names.
from this
What's
side,
your name?
my name is Ruth.
Ruth. Okay, thank you, Ruth. Right, so yes, the birds from a distance look like airplanes, right? And we know well, right, the migration that takes place along the Syro-African rift, right, into the Hula Valley, going into, right? And in the winter, you've got this magnificent, right, nesting of birds in the Hula Valley, right? And it is just spectacular. So you've got this migration that's going back and forth, right? One wonders if these birds are coming into Israel or if these birds are fleeing from Israel. And certainly, as you're pointing out, Ruth, from a distance, they look like airplanes. Right? We also see that kibbutznik in the background, right, of Kibbutz Be'eri, right, that is on his bicycle, right, enjoying this, right, seemingly, very, very beautiful day. Right. What else do the kalaniot, the red flowers, remind us of?
We have some responses here. I heard blood.
Yes. Okay. Very good. Right. This is going to be a theme that we see repeating over and over and over again in the pieces of art from the various creators. Right. This becomes not only a symbol of Israel's south, right? But it becomes a symbol of the blood of that horrific day of October 7th. Let's move on to Kishka's next piece.
Rabbi
Resonant with me.
Berekowitz.
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to share, in the last 6 to 8 months, our synagogue has joined the international community in the Kalaniot project. We've made clay kalaniot, beautifully done, and they filled, we have an, if you remember, there's a little indoor garden within our main space, our gross atrium. And we have several hundred kalaniot that we've planted, clay
Beautiful, beautiful. Should be so proud of your community that you're participating in this project. The obviously resonant symbol of the kalaniot, of those red flowers, and that being a bridge between your community in Pepper Pike and Southern Israel.
Rabbi
Okay,
Matt, we did have a question here. Sorry that
Sure.
our perspective of the room is pretty
Rabbi
limited,
Jacobs,
but-
tell me how many people we've got there, just so I can imagine the room.
We've got somewhere between 15 and 20 at the moment.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah, we're very excited. Here we go. We have a question.
I'm with the previous painting. I assume it's a painting. I'm questioning the mood. I don't understand. It's not happy. It's not sad. It's rather placid, I think, or I think that
Very good. No, I think you're right on target with this. On the one hand, the flowers and the sky give us this sense of beauty, calm, optimism. And then you also feel just below the surface the trauma of all of this. Okay, so I think you're right on target in saying that the overall mood of this creation is very, very difficult to decipher. Right? It's not at all clear that there's this unbridled sense of joy here. There isn't this sense of peace that we want to feel. We know just below the surface, right?
But there is a sense of tikva. There is the future will be rebuilt, and the mood is, the overall is not depressing, but there is a sense that there is hope.
Given that they're rebuilding, right? That they're not wallowing in despair, I absolutely agree with you, right? Od lo avda tikvatenu, right? We have not lost our hope, and indeed that is what is going to keep us moving forward. Very good. Okay, let's move on to Kishka's next piece, which is very, very resonant with meaning. What do you observe? What do you see? Okay, a number of elements, very, very important elements.
I see some hands. Here we go.
I think that the candle is people's birthdays that come and go. The right side is the days that they're marking off. And the left side, I think, appears to be names. And obviously, they're in a tunnel.
Very good. On the left side, we see the names. Right? On the right side, we see these hashtags that are counting off the days. Okay, so here we are confined in this tunnel, this very, very dark tunnel. We have this one bulb that's giving us light. In addition, on the ground, the one candle. And who does this candle, right, this birthday cake represent? It represents a very specific hostage.
We have a hand here.
Yeah. I was wondering if the candle represents the children's birthdays, the Bibas family's birthdays,
Exactly.
but
Right.
also there's elements of a Yortzeit candle, and the names look like the memorial plaques in the synagogue.
Right, very good. Very, especially now, having witnessed the funeral of the Bibas family, right? And right before, right, one could say, looking at this cake, right, and the orange icing over the cake, obviously it's meant to be a direct tie into one of the Bibas children. And on the other, now in the aftermath, right, it has this right, this hint of being a Yortzeit candle for us. Right, notice too that the memorial ribbons are strewn on the ground. Right, as if to say the hostages are forgotten in this dark tunnel. Right, again, you see how powerful the work is of Michel Kishka, both in his piece Kibbutz Be'eri and now in this tunnel piece right? Very, very directly to related to the plight of the hostages and the Bibas family. Now what I'd like to do is I want to move forward into our next artist, and that is Zoya Cherkassky. Okay, Zoya Cherkassky is a Ukrainian-Israeli artist born in Kyiv in 1976. She emigrated to Israel in 1991, just 2 weeks before the collapse of the Soviet Union. In 2010, Cherkassky began working on an exhibit entitled Pravda, Truth, which was published in 2018, depicting the experience of Russian Israelis, Russian Jews making Aliyah. In fact, she was feted to a major exhibit at the Israel Museum in Jerusalem. It opened to great praise, okay? Very, very powerful scenes of the arrivals of new immigrants. And she documented the very, very real experience of Russian Jews as they tried to acclimate to Israeli society. In the aftermath of October 7th, Cherkassky felt that she needed to flee and take refuge. Ironically, she ended up in Berlin, of all places. And what she left with, not only her partner and her child, but she also was quick to take art supplies. She is one of the most prolific of artists in the aftermath of October 7th, and you'll see what I mean in just a moment. Okay, Zoya Cherkassky's first piece, right? Perhaps familiar to some of you.
Guernica.
There you go, Rabbi Jacobs. Okay, Rabbi Jacobs gets the star of the morning now. Okay, Guernica. Okay, a very, very famous painting of Pablo Picasso. Here is the original, right, Guernica. Right, this is a large oil painting that was done by the Spanish artist Picasso in 1937. It's one of his best-known works and regarded by many art critics as his most moving and powerful anti-war painting. It's exhibited in Madrid, and the original is indeed gray, black, and white. It's 11 feet by 25 feet, right? It prominently features the suffering, right, violence and chaos of the Spanish Civil War, which took place from 1936 to 1939, right? And, right, you see a gored horse, a bull, screaming women, a dead baby, dismembered soldier, the flames, right? And look at the top of the piece, right? What do you see at the top of Guernica?
Here, some responses here.
Oh, a light and an eye.
Good. Okay, you see that light bulb, right? Which looks like it's in the middle of an eye, right? And then we go back to Cherkassky's work, right? And there's that same light bulb or eye, right? Which could be the eye of God, right? The eye of God looking down. And what do the expressions on the faces of the people convey to us?
Go ahead. If anybody raises their hand, I'll come to you.
I'm
Alina, go
making
ahead.
Rabbi Jacobs get his exercise this afternoon.
Horror in their faces.
Horror in their faces, right? Horror in their faces.
I
very
also see,
specifically- Yeah.
I also see fear.
Right. Horror, fear, right? Look, right? Those are the immediate emotions that are conveyed by looking into their eyes, right? Look at the woman covering her mouth, right? So, right, one of the most elderly characters that we see here, right? She's covering her mouth, so as, right, to muffle perhaps her scream, right? And then the mother who's covering the mouth of the infant, right, trying to muffle, right, the cry or possible cry of the baby, right? Of course, the skeletal image that we see in the background, right? This sense of death in the background, right? And clearly, where is this family? What is the sense that's being given here?
Here we got a hand.
It looks to me like there's sort of the fear and fright, and if they make any noise, they're next.
Absolutely. Right? They don't know what's right around the corner, right? And the assumption is here they are taking refuge in a sealed room, in the darkness of a sealed room, right? And surrounded by, right, death or the fear of death, right? The slaughter that's taking place around them. Right. On the one hand, what you notice immediately in Cherkassky's work is almost this comic quality to the work, right? The people almost look as caricatures of themselves. And there's also this very real quality. It's remarkable to me how she's able to convey, right, the very, very strong emotion, right? What do we see here? Any special elements that you notice?
Sandy, you want to say something?
No, I was looking at her dress and how do you say calliope?
Good, excellent. The kalaniot that are on the dress of the older woman that's at right the center of the piece. Excellent. Okay, so she becomes representative of the entire south of Israel.
The
I'm also
Torah.
noticing, oh, sorry to interrupt you. I'm noticing striped shirts that I don't know if it's supposed to be the Shoah uniforms, but same in the last piece of art as well. The
Right, very
older
good.
woman was
Okay.
in pants.
Right, very good. It's very, very suggestive here. And that message is going to become even more explicit in another one or two of Cherkassky's pieces that we're going to see here. Right, the Sefer Torah that we see.
I thought it could be the moments right before the previous one, so that Simchat Torah, the family or the community is together, the soldiers home, but there's fire, I thought it was fire behind them.
Excellent.
So that was right before they
it's
went
a
to the
beautiful
Sefer.
way of reading these pieces, to read them chronologically, right? To see this as moments before the family goes into the shelter. Okay, and right, another aspect that I'll point out here is look at how multi-generational, right, this image is, right? The many different generations, right? No one is immune to the horror that's taking place around them, right? You see the fire of destruction, right? As we look to the right side or left side, right? Depending on your orientation.
Oh, we have a question here. Go ahead.
I don't know what can you show the previous picture again, please? The strap around the soldier and the father with the,
Ah, yes.
what's that? It looks like a seat belt.
Right, the strap around the soldier and the right. Okay, so right, this is a holder, right, for the rifle, right, the weaponry that you see behind these characters. Okay, you could see the top of a gun, right, just off of the soldier of just off of the soldier, the woman standing next to her, right, and also her husband. Right, which is showing us, right, that these people are not going to be defenseless. Right, I believe that that's part of what it is that Cherkassky wants to convey in the piece, as opposed to if this were an image of a pogrom from the old country. Right, you wouldn't see Jews with weaponry. Right, but now she's reminding us that we've returned to a modern state and we have the potential to defend ourselves. I believe that's what, I'm so happy that you noticed this element. I believe that's what she wants to convey in portraying the straps that we see, right? And the rifles, the guns behind them.
But it's both rifles and Judaism, Torah.
Right, and right. Very good, Nelson, right? It's also spiritual strength that we see in the foreground, right? This next piece of Cherkassky, obviously, right? The Nova Festival, right? Re'im. right? The horror of being slaughtered, right? And then, of course, right, a piece that she does here, right, which reminds us of none other than Edvard Munch, right? The Scream, right? This was the work of a very, very famous Norwegian painter from 1893. That's the original, and here's Cherkassky's piece, right? And remember, the power of the original piece, right, is the silence, right? A scream, right, that echoes throughout eternity, but also the silence of that, and the same with, right, these victims of October 7th. Right, what are we to make of this?
Right, we have a hand here.
It looks like just the mother's trying to save a child and all the others are already massacred, possibly.
Right, I want to believe that some of them are sleeping, but right, you see this pool of blood just below them, right? And the mother is protecting this either toddler child or infant child, right? And again, right, look at the power of capturing the fear in the eyes of the mother and child.
We have another hand here.
It looks like it's a combination of the Guernica and the Scream. Because they all look, yeah, maybe. And then there was
Excellent.
somebody
Excellent.
also mentioned that looks like the stripes of a talit.
Right, very good, right, in the center of the piece. Very good. Right, the sexual violence, right, an elderly couple. Right, what's
This is
being
the first
conveyed?
one in which the eyes are closed, but it's not a sign of death.
Good, so what do we pick up on here, Nelson?
Well, they're crying. They're really upset at what's happened.
Right, these soldiers are devastated, right? It seems that, right, there's this sense of helplessness, right, against this black background, against, what seems like these black clouds that are embracing these soldiers, right? The horror that they're in the midst of.
We have a hand over here.
It's interesting to me that they're all women. And for me, when I think of, a group of women soldiers, I think of, and I'm not going to get the name right, but the groups that were supposed to be, or that were scouting out in Gaza, and they weren't allowed to have weapons. So to have a group of only women soldiers with very, clear focus on the weapons, I don't know if, to me, it provided a contrast.
Right. There's definitely, right, this resonance of, right, thinking of these Tetspaniot, the soldiers that were observing exactly what it was that was going on, right, just across the border and reporting what it is that they saw, right, the movements of Hamas terrorists, right, and were so helpless, right? They reported exactly what was happening, and yet, right, the devastation around us.
Oh, we have another hand.
To me also, their eyes closed and the ma'ot, the tears. Yeah, it looks like they refuse to look at the horror.
Right, the eyes closed, that they're refusing to look at the horror, right? Or one wonders too if they've seen the horror, right? And this is, right, moments after.
Another hand here.
This is Chad, Rabbi. I'm struck by the woman soldier on the left. She has orange hair and her gun is pointed down as opposed to the other. And if this is also a reference to the Bibas family.
Excellent. One of the reasons that I always love looking at art is I feel in so many deep ways that visual art is midrash, right? And I love how we're looking at this art from very, very different perspectives, what the associations we make, and certainly, right, whenever we see red hair now, right, the association is that Bibas family. And it could very well be that Cherkassky was thinking about the Bibas family as she created this piece, right? Bring them back, right? All of the children that we see here, right? Children who were victims on October 7th of being taken hostage. Right? What is the story that's being told in this piece?
I don't see hands at the moment, but anybody?
Okay.
These are harmless people who were killed anyway, tied up and slaughtered.
Okay, so right, we have this young woman, right, or child that is peering out from behind a door, right? It seems clear she was in a sealed room. She was protected in the sealed room, right? We could only imagine what she experienced, what she heard, right? As presumably her family was slaughtered just outside of that sealed room. Right, look at how, right, the central figure that we have here, right, the hands are bound, right, and also, right, I'm just moving, yeah, right, and also the figure on the extreme right side too, right, presumably the parents, their hands are bound. What stands out most to us here?
The tattoo.
Right, there you go. Right, a Holocaust survivor, right, her arm tattooed, right? Just as I said before, in a couple of these images, Cherkassky makes the Holocaust imagery very, very explicit, very much front and center. It's literally at the center of this very, very moving piece, right? And in so many ways, right, there's resonance with Samuel Hirschenberg's piece known as the Black Banner, right, a piece that he did when he was in Poland, right, in the early part of the 20th century, in the aftermath of a pogrom. Right? And there's the sense of a march, right, the sense of leaving home, and the devastation that's just behind them. I want to now turn to Or Yogev. Or Yogev is an illustrator from Kibbutz Dan in northern Israel. He was one of the evacuees from the north, and like many Israelis, profoundly affected by the war experience. Right? He's known on Instagram by his handle Shablulim. He reacted immediately on October 7th with nearly daily prints featuring images of the people and places ruined and destroyed by Hamas terrorists. A number of months back, he had a very, very powerful exhibit at the Old Shaarei Tzedek Hospital on Rehov Yafo in Yerushalayim as part of the Outline Festival. Here's Or Yogev. Right, the color that stands out most for us, of course,
Orange, red. Yeah.
right? The orange/red that we see here, right? Of the child at the center, right? Of course, again, the kalaniot, right? The flowers that we see all around the child, right? And the feeling of what is the feeling that we have here of this poster?
Any hands here? Anybody? No responses in the room at the moment. Oh, we got one. Yes, Sandy.
I'm trying to figure out the perspective, and I'm thinking the child is the most important feature here. He's large, he's in the center. That has to have meaning I would think.
I believe what Oryogev is doing is he's reclaiming a sense of youth and innocence here. And in so many ways, there's a certain resonance of this style with posters that we know from the period of the Chalutzim, the period of the pioneers, right? Building settlements, building kibbutzim, and the various settlements that we have in Otef Aza, in the Gaza envelope, right? And of course, too, the red roofs that we have here, right? Very, very typical. This is usually an image that you see on Tenuva products, dairy products in Israel. Shira, I see you're raising your hand.
Yes, to me, it's a wistful image of what might have been. That's Kafir Bibas as a little boy playing, playing with his toys, dreaming of constructing.
Beautiful, very, very beautiful. Right, a wistful image.
I'd like to say something. First of all, I see the flag of Israel on Kfir's shirt. And to me, the little settlement on the left reminds me of Choma Migdal. Like Hanita, that area, when they built the first kibbutzim and the Kalaniyot. I see here a little longing for hope, some kind of hope. It's
longing for home, beautiful.
It's not destruction.
Right. No. It's not destruction at all. It's
hope.
I believe it's longing for home and longing to go back to the past before the destruction. Right. And of course, right, again, right, the Bibas family, right? Sherry Bibas with her 2 children, right, attempting to keep the doors, the metal doors of the sealed room closed, right, as the terrorists are peering in. Right, again, just like Cherkassky, right, and even, right, our first artist, Michel Kishka, right, you feel that the artist Oryogev is telling a story here, right, and he's created a number of series like this, right. This is, right, a 4-part series, right, that's giving us the story, right. We took one image, right, just before from this series, right, but obviously, right, the top right-hand corner, what do you see if you look closely?
And anyone who wants a closer look, you're welcome to come as if it's a gallery and take a look. But anybody? You see? Yep, Judy.
On the right, you asked?
Yes, the right, top right.
I see like a boot, like a soldier's boot.
Good, like a soldier's boot. Okay, you're looking at the boot of a terrorist, right? You see the bloodstained boot of a terrorist, right? And just behind that boot, can you see?
The eyes, yes, we have. Also, with perspective here, the Kalaniot here look like eyes more so than I think they have in the other pieces.
Good, as if the Kalaniot are bearing witness to the slaughter around them. Okay, and again, notice too how Oryogev is limiting the palette, right? We have red, we have green, black, right? Some touches of blue here, right? And notice in the top right-hand piece, you see the person that's hiding in the background, hiding in the darkness. All you see are the eyes, right? And the hand that's covering his mouth, so he's quiet, right? And then, of course, again, right, keep trying to keep the doors of the sealed room closed, right? You see a victim, right, of October 7th on the ground with the face of the phone, right? That phone is facing us, right? This is an image that we saw over and over and over again in Israel, right? Loved ones sending WhatsApp messages, right, or social media messages, checking in to see if their loved ones were okay. Right? And then finally, in the bottom left-hand corner, right, we just see the feet of the victim. Right? We see the feet of an Israeli victim with the kalaniot, right, those flowers that are bearing witness. Notice how he moved from the boot of a terrorist, the bloodstained boot of a terrorist, right, to the victim that's now enveloped by these kalaniot. Right, again, right, it looks like, what do we have here in the top piece? Right, moments before the devastation of October 7th, right, you even see terrorists pulling up in their vehicles, right, from the right and from the left, right, and then the destruction below, right, setting fire to these dwellings. Right, of course, the connection with Kfir Bibas, right, the pacifier, the oranges.
And it looks like a Jewish star, right?
Right, the pacifier itself, yes, right.
The child's looking at fire.
Yeah.
Excellent. You see the fire in the child's eyes, right, reflecting back to us. This to me is one of the most powerful pieces that Oryogev has done. And this is exactly like a graphic novel. What I'll do is I'll translate for you, right? You could probably just barely make out, right, the Hebrew writing in the white, right? And if we read from the top right-hand corner, from right to left, right, and then go down from right to left, beginning with the blue image, right, with the terrorist on the right side, right? What does it say in the top right-hand corner? It says, I began to run in the direction of the storage containers as they were shooting, they, the terrorists, were shooting in every direction. The middle piece, terrorists ran after me, shooting at my head. And then the third piece of the triptych at the top on the right side says, one of the others told me not to stop running, but I jumped, right, to take refuge in the bushes. There were 5 or 6 terrorists that were running after me. Right, the bottom right, it says, I heard a piercing scream, and I saw one of the terrorists shooting at a woman. And then the image of the terrorist that you see here with this sardonic, I would say satanic smile. I will never forget the satanic smile of the terrorist who killed her. I stayed in the bush and did not move. I knew that if I were to move, he would kill me next. Right? And then when we turn to the left side of this piece, again, the top right-hand corner where you see the legs running, right? It says the terrorists pursued me. Then the middle piece, I heard them stop near me. The third piece to the far left, I have no idea how and why they didn't see me. And then the bottom piece, the most powerful, right? This woman who was running to escape the terrorists. She writes the following. I closed my eyes and put the biggest smile on my face so that if my mother would find my body, she would see first my smile. I broke a number of branches so that I would be more comfortable, and I did everything I could to hide myself. Right, again, the work of Oryogev, right, the security patrols of these kibbutzim, of these settlements in the south, right, wanting to protect their homes, the embrace of their homes. Right, of course, this piece is hearkening back. Again, I'm sure many of you remember posters from the period of the pioneers coming to Israel, right? The crate of oranges, right? And that orange tone bouncing off of and complementing the tone of the kalaniot. Right, another very powerful piece, Slicha shenechtafti, right? Apologizing for, right? I apologize that what? I was taken hostage. Right, this is a caricature of one of the heroes of the movement advocating for the hostages. This is a Nav Tzangauker from Ofakim in the northern Negev, whose son Matan Tzangauker was taken hostage. Right, a Nav is always right. It seems the most dominant image of the demonstrations that we see in Tel Aviv every Motzei Shabbat, every Saturday night. Right, look at the flames behind her. She almost has this image of, right, of being a Statue of Liberty. Right, we want to believe that any one of us who had a child that was taken hostage would have the strength and the courage of a Nav Tzangauker. Right, what is this an allusion to?
This was this the soccer playing?
Right.
Is it the
Right.
the Druze?
Very good, Rabbi Jacobs. Right, remember there was a Druze village in which children were playing soccer on the field, right? And it was hit by a Hezbollah missile, right? And all of the children on that field were killed. Okay. So now I want to close the section with Or Yogev, and I want to turn to the exhibit that I mentioned before that is still in our space of Kol Ha'ot. A little about Kol Ha'ot, the studio project that I'm a part of in Jerusalem. Kol Ha'ot is a studio project that was founded by myself, David Moss, who I'm sure many of you are familiar with his Haggadah, and Elisa Moss Rabinowitz, his daughter, who is our executive director at Kol Ha'ot. What we do at Kol Ha'ot, which literally means the voice of the letter, the voice of the symbol, we teach Jewish history, texts, and values through the arts, through the visual arts and also the performing arts. As I said before, what we did for last Sukkot in the lead up was we commissioned 14 artists to create commemorative posters of October 7th. And what we asked each of these artists to do was to take a pasuk, take a verse from what's known as Shir Ha'itim, right, which is the poem of time. Right, this is the very famous poem, to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under heaven, right? The poem that we know from Kohelet, from Ecclesiastes, which is read on Sukkot, a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to pluck up, that which is planted, l'chol zman ve'et l'chol chafetz tachat hashamayim, et leledet ve'et lamut, et latat ve'et la'akor natua, et la'arog ve'et le'po, etc., etc. We asked each of the artists to take a verse from this third chapter of Ecclesiastes and also to weave it into a very, very special project called Ot Chaim. Ot Chaim can be found here. I'm going to see if I could pull up Ot Chaim easily. Ot Chaim. Amazing. Okay, great. This is the Ot Chaim project. Okay, Rabbi Jacobs, if you could remind everyone of Ot Chaim at the end of the session, I want each of you to go to this website and look it up. This is one of the most moving projects since October 7th. What the Ot
Real
Chaim...
quick, sorry to interrupt you. I don't think we see it on our end. We still see the link only.
You only see the link.
We
I'm
only
sorry.
see the slideshow.
Wait, let me try pulling it up again in another way.
Great, now we see it.
I see it, great. Okay.
Thank you.
What the Ot Chaim team did is they took the handwriting of soldiers that have fallen since October 7th, and they turned their handwriting into downloadable fonts. They tell the story of these soldiers on the website. Okay, I'm scrolling down. Okay, this is an absolutely remarkable website, right? And they talk about how, right, one's handwriting is unique, right, to that person. And what they wanted to do was preserve the life and memory of that person through their writing. So they were given samples of diary entries, of letters from each of these soldiers, right? And it tells the story of the soldiers on the site, and you could actually download their handwriting, their particular Hebrew fonts. It's absolutely remarkable what they did. So this is the site. I'm going to stop sharing it so I could bring back our presentation. Here we are. Okay, what we did in the Kol Ha'ot space is we created stamps. Okay, and one stamp for every letter of the Aleph Bet, and each letter is the writing of another soldier that was killed on October 7th. We also asked the artists of these posters to incorporate the handwriting of one of the soldiers, to learn the story of that soldier's life and to incorporate their handwriting in addition to the verse that they chose from Ecclesiastes. So here is a sampling of the posters. Right, the first is Yaniv Rotem, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones. At the top, we see a typical image from a rabbi who is part of a Chevra Kadisha, right? Part of the Memorial Society, the Burial Society, right? Who's digging the grave of the parent of the child that we see at the bottom, right? The only part of this poster that uses the handwriting of the deceased soldier is the Amen, right? When the daughter is saying Amen to the El Mole Rachamim prayer, the memorial prayer that you see above. Right, the next piece is by Nadav Machete, A Time to Seek and a Time to Lose. Eit levakesh ve'eit la'abed. Right, this particular piece is by Dov Abramson. Right, Dov is an alum of the Schechter Institutes. Right, what do you notice about this piece? This is Eit lachashot ve'eit ledaber, a time to be silent and a time to speak. What's the power of this piece?
Any hands in the room? Guess we got one. Hold on.
Well, it looks to me like a flower and maybe a petal is missing, but the petals and the leaf of the flower coming off a stem look like caption bubbles on a comic book.
Excellent.
Like if you, you know, what somebody would be saying.
Excellent. Your name is?
This is Chad again.
Chad, thank you so much. Okay, you got it right away. There you go. I wanted you to see the speech bubbles here. Right? I love this poster in its absolute simplicity. The fact that the artist Dov Abramson is playing off again of the image of the kalaniot, right, of those red flowers from the south. And what does he do? He turns the petals and the leaf into speech bubbles. Okay, moving along.
Can you translate the line from the Tanakh? I don't
Right,
think I've
the line that you see here is a time to be silent and a time to speak.
Are those literally reds and greens like traffic lights?
Right, that's another way of seeing this particular piece. Right, this is more Levi Gwertz, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. Shana Kapel, a time to mourn and a time to dance. Right, obviously linking us directly to Re'im, right, the site of the Nova Festival.
Rabbi Berekowitz.
Yes.
Several of us that we took our synagogue trip where we met David Moss last summer. We were there at the site. Yeah. So for those that don't know, that image is what the memorial looks like at the Nova site. So.
Right, families put up these very, very moving makeshift memorials with images of, right, their children, of their relative, right, that was killed there. And in a way, they've turned into these permanent memorials. right? A time to kill and a time to heal. The power of this particular piece is the wall that you see there is the wall of the infirmary of Kibbutz Be'eri. And this is the handwriting of the physician in Kibbutz Be'eri that was tending to victims at Be'eri on October 7th. Right? You see the power of what the artist did is, right, this sense of children's Band-Aids, right? These colorful Band-Aids that you see there, right? Along with a bullet hole in a wall that's covered up, right? This physician, right, was also killed. Right? 8 livnot, the 8 lifrotz, a time to build and a time to tear down. Right? This is Menachem Weinrib. Right? This particular piece, right? A time to plant and a time to pluck that which is planted by Rinat Gilboa. Eight le'ehov ve'eit lisno, a time to love and a time to hate. Elchanan ben Uri, right? You see the heart there, right? And you also see, right, the weaponry that's below it, the bomb that's below it, right? And a final piece, right? Eight milchama ve'eit shalom, a time for war and a time for peace by Nirya ben Moshe. Right. I want to close by taking us to a very, very moving song poem that was written by Shimon Alkabetz. Shimon Alkabetz is the husband of Anati Alkabetz, the father of Sivan Alkabetz. Sivan and her almost fiance were killed in the young adult section of Kfar Aza. Anati Alkabetz, the wife of the author of this poem, is a student of ours at Machon Schechter, at our graduate school. She's in the arts track and also in our pastoral care track. She's an absolutely remarkable student. What Anati did in the aftermath of October 7th is she created a memorial to her daughter's life in the dwelling place where she lived. And she invited all of the staff and faculty, all of us at Schechter Institutes, to go down just over a year ago to see the devastation, to bear witness. And it was one of the most moving experiences of my life. As we walked through the devastation of Kfar Aza, I had this feeling in the pit of my stomach that this is what Chaim Nachman Bialik must have felt like when he visited Kishinev to take testimony from the survivors of the Kishinev pogrom in 1903. Shimon Alkabetz wrote the following, and this song was his way of wrestling with his mourning process with the loss of his daughter Sivan. He wrote the following: most terrifying is the longing that descends on you without warning, causes you to cry at the wrong time. Right at that moment, you are at the cashier with all your groceries. Most seared into you deeply is the feeling of guilt, how you were not with her at the moment of terror, at the hour she was under fire and blood. She only wanted you to say that everything will be okay. Never again, our parents would say to us, never again, our leaders promised us, never again, le'olam lo od, we declare to our children. Most terrifying is the longing, how you were not with her and she only wanted you to say everything will be okay. Never again, our parents would say to us, never again, our leaders promised us, never again, we declared to our children, only the world is no longer for us, we are left alone. Most frightening is the longing, the longing. I want to try to play this song for you. I'm hoping that the sounds and the video will come through clearly. The video I'm about to show you, you'll see images of Sivan. Okay. Let me try to pull this up for you. Okay, it should play for us. Okay, give me a moment. Let me try to pull it up another way.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you for your patience.
While you're loading it up, I just find it very interesting how art is this like almost necessary response to horror. And then we saw it in the Shoah that there were, you know, men and women of the Shoah who made art and buried it, right? And we uncovered art from the concentration camps. And I just think how there's something about when you don't have the words, how art serves to, or the need to. It's also Maya Angelou's "I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings," right? There's something about how art is produced from horror that I don't, obviously I would defer to you for reflections on that. And it doesn't need to be now,
Right.
just while we're loading it, I thought I
No,
would share.
Rabbi Jacobs, I think you said it so beautifully. I believe visual art, creative writing, music, photography captures the essence of our souls in very, very powerful ways. Art has an elusive power to it. So I feel that art communicates in a very, very deep way where, right, other ways of communicating, when it is that we feel shut ein milim, as if there are no words to the suffering, right? The art comes through and is able to express that. Okay, let me try playing this now. I think we might have success. Let's give it a shot.
הכי מפחיד זה הגעגוע.
Can you see this?
Yes.
שנוחת עליך בלי להודיע. קוראים לך לבכות ברגע לא מתאים. בדיוק בקופה עם הדברים בשקית. הכי צורב זה רגש האשמה. איך לא היית איתה ברגעי האימה, בשעות שהיא הייתה תחת אש ודם. היא רק רצתה שתגיד הכל יהיה בסדר. לעולם לא עוד אמרו לנו הורינו, לעולם לא עוד הבטיחו מנהיגנו, לעולם לא עוד אמרנו לילדינו. רק העולם כבר לא עוד עבורנו. הכי מפחיד זה הגעגוע, זה הגעגוע. איך לא היית איתה, היא רק רצתה שתגיד הכל יהיה בסדר. לעולם לא עוד אמרו לנו הורינו, לעולם לא עוד הבטיחו מנהיגנו, לעולם לא עוד אמרנו לילדינו. רק העולם כבר לא עוד עבורנו. נשארנו לבדנו, נשארנו לבדנו. הגעגוע, זה הגעגוע.
אין מילים, there are no words. רק רצתה שתגיד הכל יהיה בסדר. She only wanted to say that everything would be okay. Just closing the music in the background. I just want to give a few moments for reflections. There was a particular image or idea that spoke to you over this past hour and 15 minutes, something that resonates with you. I just wanted to give the space for that.
Got some hands over here.
I was very impressed by the one painting of the family scream, just how they looked, and you could really somehow comes back that all kinds of things happen in your mind when you see something like that.
I was just going to say that the music that you just played for us, I don't understand Hebrew. My knowledge is Shabbat Shalom, but I think I knew every word of what they were saying. The music really touched me.
Thank you. By the way, I'm happy to share the translation of that song and also the link to that song with all of you. I'm happy to share that with Rabbi Jacobs, and he could get it out to all of you.
Any other
So
reactions?
I live in South Florida, where I suppose the weather is very much like it was in Israel. And that village, which is destroyed, could be my neighborhood.
I forgot, Nelson, how graphic those images are of Kfar Aza, right? And Kfar Aza is just steps away from the border with Gaza, right? On that morning of October 7th, right, about 100 terrorists, right, broke through that fence, flooded into Gaza, and just began murdering all of the young adults in that section of the kibbutz, right? And you saw these very, very graphic images of the devastation that was left. You understand what it was to bear witness, to be there in person, and to see that.
We have a hand here.
To me, as a child of Holocaust survivors, it brings me back to the sentence of, it was very powerful, by the way. Brings me back to the sentence of Pesach, בכל דור ודור עומדים עלינו לכלותנו. And unfortunately, it's still there.
That in every generation they rise up to destroy us. I'll share with you too that that the other piece that I'll brag to you about is that my youngest child, my baby, who's now 17 and in the Hartman Girls High School, is on her Poland pilgrimage as I teach to you. This is a rite of passage in Israeli high schools where they take groups, right, to understand the rich culture and civilization that existed before the Shoah, right, to understand what it was that was destroyed. It wasn't simply a pilgrimage to the death camps, but it was really truly understanding what existed before. And Am Yisrael Chai, that's what I want to say to you, that the people of Israel live, and the testament to who we are as a people and a nation, right, is Le'olam Lo'od, is to never forget who we are at our essence. And that's what carries us forward. That's the tikva. Rabbi Rudin Luria.
Thank you, Matt, for a really moving, incredible session. A great way to begin this series of talking about and bringing reactions to October 7th, where Israel is now and what Israel and how Israel is responding and how Israelis are responding And just the way that you do it is always so moving and inspiring. So thank you. I did want to, to me, the most sort of the piece that I'm keeping with me the most is the image of Einav Zengauker, the mother of Matan, the hostage, who, you know, I've been following her and reading, especially over the last month or so, that, you know, the fire and the unifying force, and also the opposite of unifying force that she is. And just to see that image of her as the Statue of Liberty, and, you know, different ideas of standing atop a car, and, you know, just thinking just throughout the last 100 years that, you know, that image of protesters on top of cars. And I'm gonna go back to it and just sort of see what that is, and to speak to how Israel is today. So thank you for bringing all the pieces, especially that one.
It was such an honor to be with your community. I want to thank you and Rabbi Jacobs for extending the invitation. And if I couldn't be there in person, this is the next best thing. So what a treat to be with all of you. And may we all know better days ahead as a people. And I also want to wish you all Purim Sameach. Wonderful to have a joy-filled holiday to look forward to. Rabbi Jacobs.
Chag Purim Sameach. I want to echo everybody's thank yous, and I'll go a little further in just a minute with my thank you. But Rabbi Matt, we had a question about the slides, whether they can be accessible. Totally understandable if not.
I'm happy to share the presentation with you, and you can also send that out as well.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Truly such a treat. Any opportunity I have to continue learning from you and to share you with the community is just such a blessing. Again, I just want to share one thing, which is that my sister's in film and television, and which is a creative medium, of course. And I think it was peak COVID. There was an email sent out to everybody in her office, trying to console everybody, just dark times, of course. And the words of consolation was that even in the worst of times, how great that we can make beautiful things. And that was sort of my reaction to a lot of this, which is just, how do we make beautiful things in response to horror? And how do we lean into a Jewish reaction, which is finding the beauty that is Judaism and Jewish life and the vibrancy of it? And in whatever creative forums that might be at our disposal, how do we make beautiful things? So thank you for this beautiful thing that you've shared with us. And again, just so grateful for your wisdom and your expertise and your passion. So thank you, Rabbi Matt.
Bruchim to you. All the best. And again, Chag Purim Sameach.
Chag Purim Sameach.
And enjoy your Sunday.
Yes, thank you. And our next one, for those of you, thank you for coming. Really so wonderful to have you all here. Our next one will be Sunday, March 23rd, again at noon. Our teacher will be Tamar Biala. The session is after Simchat Torah, Israeli women writing Midrash. So again, we'll have it here. It'll be over Zoom, so hybrid, and we'll serve lunch again. We hope to see you then.